have to do that with my kids sometimes where I'm like, you need to take some deep breaths. So
Breathing
let's
works.
breathe together.
Yeah. Sometimes you need a lot. Welcome to Polite as Fuck, everyone.
Welcome.
I'm Erica.
No, I think that's good, actually. People should know that
This is my voice.
Yeah.
My laugh is really loud and obnoxious.
my name's Ellie. I'm obnoxious. All of it.
And we're here, coming to you live to talk about sex.
To talk about sex. The best sex?
The good sex.
The good sex.
Because we haven't had that in a
This
while.
is our manifestation. Hopefully, if we talk about it, we will bring it in to our lives.
I just haven't had sex in a long time. But
Same.
I would prefer the good kind if I was to have it.
I think everybody does.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good place to start. I think we definitely want to talk about, like, the fun parts and our fun parts. It sounded bad.
It did. Our fun
parts. I mean, technically, that is what we're talking about.
Should we talk about, like, our sexual journeys at all?
Sure.
That makes us kind of like...
Well, okay, yeah, sure.
I was just thinking of, like...
when we first had sex?
Yeah.
Oh,
and, like...
What's your sexual history? I want to know when you lost your... Well, what are you attracted to? I'm attracted to men.
I'm also attracted to men.
Fantastic. Remember when we said that recording in the evening was our problem?
I
Don't think
it's
that's our problem.
I think we're just weird.
That's what
In the
makes
best
it so,
way.
Yeah.
This is why we're an authority on what makes good sex.
Yeah.
Because we've had it.
Because we've had it. When did you lose your virginity?
I had... The first time I had, like penetrative sex.
Yeah.
Was when I was 20. I think. Oh my God. I had been dating this guy for like 3 years. And because I had grown up so religious, it was like, I had convinced myself, I was like, I'm going to marry him.
Yeah.
So like, it's fine. Like, we can just do it. Sips water. But yeah, I had done like basically everything before that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not sex, but it is
Mhm.
in just like oral sex and
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah, then I just felt a lot of shame. It also was like weird because it felt like he like knew everything, even though he
Yeah.
also said he'd never had sex before.
Yeah.
But he was like, do this. Oh, you would like this. You should try
Mhm.
this. And I was like, I don't know. I'm also like, should I be having sex? And so it was just like a roller coaster.
Of emotions.
Yeah. And that was my first time. But, you know, we really come through. I have had it multiple times since. This episode is going to be so...
This is going to be so great.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I've had sex a few times in my day, and I've had good sex and I've had really awful sex. So
Yeah.
take it away. What's
I
your
definitely
journey?
think a lot of people can relate. I lost my quote unquote virginity, penetrative sex when I was very young. I'm not going to say my age.
That's fine.
But I think I just, because being introduced to sex so young, I thought I knew everything. I didn't come at it like when I was in a relationship with somebody, or even just like having any sort of like sexual experience with someone, came at it with like, oh, you should do this, you should do this. I just felt like I was introduced to it so young. And I don't really know why. I haven't really like thought too much about it. I just know that it has played a part in my own like sexual relationships. But I think I didn't really think too much about it until I got into like a pretty serious relationship in college. And that's when I started to realize, like, when you're younger, whether like you come from like a religious background or a small town or whatever, there's just this like like talking about like what's that thing, like the like how many people you have had sex with, like
your body count.
Yeah, body count, and like what have you done and who have you done it with, and all of these things. And so that always like played a part. And I really think like, well, actually, I'm going to take a step back. It wasn't until I had moved away from Nevada and started dating someone when I lived in Southern California who was like very, very religious. And by that time, like I had had like sex with a few different people, and I felt so shameful. Like I remember driving us to swim practice, and like my foot was on the gas, and it, like my car was going like this because I was like shaking so much, like share this with this person that I was supposed to be like attracted to and like high school dating. And I just felt so shameful because it, not necessarily like you were saying like penetrated sex, but like anything, doing any sort of anything with anybody. I wanted to be very like open with this person, and I just felt so ashamed of myself for having done it so young and with like the amount of people that I've done it with. And then fast forward to like college, that's when I like really just stopped giving a fuck. Like I just did everything because I wanted to, and all of these things. I do think like it played a part in my relationship because I put so much value on it. So as soon as like I was in a relationship where it wasn't valued, I felt not valued because I thought like, oh, it's because of me or something, you know, it has to do with me. But I think definitely like as I've gotten older, I have like a different outlook on it, and think of it as just like a way to connect with someone, as well as like it's pleasurable. And that's why I like to do it, whether it's like in a committed relationship or to the extent of a one night stand, which I've had both. So that's kind of my journey. But I feel very like open about talking about it, and I'm excited for this episode because we hit as funny and fun as we are and all the things that we talk about. I do think like that's what I enjoy, is like hearing people talking about it makes it feel like, especially for maybe some of the younger people that might be listening, is like not making it so like taboo. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel about it.
Cool. Okay, let's dive into your notes. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I thought like when you talk about sex, like it's such a big umbrella, and like so many things can fall under that. And I think like we can only share our experiences, which is like heterosexual, like straight sex with guys. And so I think like that is important and fun, but also like there's so many other things that like happen and we don't have experience. So I wanted to just touch on like universally, no matter who you are, what you do, who you do it with, like what makes good sex before we talk about like our fun stuff. And so just going back, what I had first said on mine was being on the same page with the person that you are about to do a nasty with. I think like that's such a good spot to like start off in, because it's like you have to communicate and make sure that you are feeling safe.
I do think it's harder for a one night stand. Like I think a lot of what we had written down or are going to talk about is more like when you have a connection or a relationship with someone.
Yeah.
I think I'm in my like healing era. I'm in the pit of it right now. I'm like really low the healing. And last summer, I know we talk about it a lot, but like I had one night stands and it was fine. Like I didn't care. But if I did that right now, I know that would just not be okay for my mental.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that having that like connection, or what was it?
Being on the same page.
On the same page is so important to have enjoyable sex. That like you feel safe. You feel like you can speak up. You feel like you kind of know that person and what they like and don't like, and can learn more about them that way.
I also think too, like with a one night stand, if that's what you're going into, or like you find yourself having like, you know, about to or going to have like a sexual relationship with someone, even with a one night stand, is like that's where being on the same page is so important, especially if it may like affect your mental health or their mental health. So like, for example, if you meet someone and you've like brought them over, you're going over to their place, and you know, that's such an like an opportunity just to say like, hey, what is this, or like where I'm at. So I think it's good too that you're listening to your body and like that's not what you need right now. But I think even like during like over the summer when we were out and about, like it was helpful just to know what it is like we were looking for, what the other person was looking for, and being on the same page about that way like everybody's like sanity stayed intact, because it's like such a slippery slope for it to be like, oh, I thought it was this, and the other person was like, that's definitely not what it was, because I think it can be misinterpreted, and then you are the one that ends up like feeling shitty or bad or whatever, which we kind of talked about in our like fuck on the first date episode too.
Yeah. Also, on that note, I know for myself personally, I've like followed through with things I didn't want to do because I like didn't communicate. But I was just like, I don't really know this person, so like whatever, I'm here, let's just do it. Which is like a horrible attitude.
I think a lot of people are in that, like feel that way.
Yeah.
And I don't want to generalize, but like from my experience and the people that I've talked to, it seems to be a lot of like straight women that like find themselves in positions, or just like women in general that just like find themselves in a position and they're like, well, I'll just do it.
Yeah. I don't like really want to. I'm not like, I need to get out of here, so whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's great, like asking someone, hey, what is this to you? Like, what are we doing here? Because that can kind of like set the tone for it, even if it is just like you never see them again.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah. My second one was communicating your needs. I think, again, like no matter one night stand, committed relationship, anything in between, no matter who you're having sex with, what kind of sex you're having, everybody has needs, and communicating that makes like really good sex. And that goes to your point, is like sometimes like I find myself doing things that I don't want to do, and I can 100% say that if I have ever been in that situation, it is not my best sex ever. It's never been like, I didn't want to, but then it ended up like, no, those were not my needs. My needs were not met at all, and it wasn't good. So I think like that for a baseline is communicating needs on both ends.
Yeah. I had a thought as you were speaking. Oh, one of my favorite things, and I think I said this I don't know. I said this in some episode, but like, I love having a debrief.
Oh, yes. I remember you saying this.
I've only ever done it in like a serious relationship, or like with someone that I've like been with for a while. Is like, what did you like? What did you not like? Like, was there anything you like wish we did differently, type of thing? And I'm sure there's better ways to phrase those questions, but I feel like kind of poking at it to like see, because this sounds manipulative, but it's not meant to be. But like after you have sex, you're usually in your like most vulnerable state. And so I feel like people are more willing to communicate something that they wouldn't usually before that.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you just shared something so intimate together, type of thing.
Yeah.
And then for future.
I laugh at you, but only because like I'm slightly jealous. Like I've never done that, and it's such a smart thing to do, to like debrief your sex and figure out like what worked and what didn't. You're always like wanting.
I think because my first experience with it was so much like, you would like this. This is what we should do. It was very much like someone telling me versus me communicating. So now I never want to put anyone else in that position, but I also wish, like at the time I didn't have a voice. That bird almost just flew into our window. You're kidding. No. Anyway, so that was really distracting.
Our windows are just so clean.
Yeah, so clean in this gray sky. Anyway, finding my voice, I feel like not that I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm like this domineering person in the bedroom, but like I want it to be a safe space where we can both communicate things that we like or don't like.
Yeah, I love that. And then my third and last one that I have on this one, I'm sure there's many more, but this is just the one that I thought these are the ones that I related to that I thought would go good like universally, is respecting boundaries. Yeah, I've not too much to say about that. Just respect people's boundaries, like listen and also like communicate what you're needs are in order to set your boundaries, and then make sure, like, hopefully that you are with someone that is respecting those boundaries. Boom.
Yeah, respecting boundaries is super important. I will say, having grown up with a religion that very much tells you, like, these are your morals, like, these are your standards, this is what you believe, and I didn't necessarily resonate with all of them. It was hard for me when I got into more intimate situations to be able to delineate, like, what is my actual boundary and what is this boundary that I'm being told.
Yeah.
So, like, really understanding your own, and I know it's silly, but, like, writing it down of, like, what are my boundaries?
Yeah.
Like, what will I not do? And I think, like, recently in the dating scene that I've been on of, like, setting boundaries for myself, even though they haven't all been, like, great dates, I feel like it's been fine, and I'm not so, like, attached or upset by it because I'm like, I'm leaving after 2 hours. Like, I have these boundaries, and I think the same should be done for the bedroom.
Yes. I also think, too, like, I am just now learning, like, what my boundaries are. I feel like before, like, I just had sex to have sex because it's what, like, you were supposed to do. And I think, like, very recently I'm just, like, figuring out, like, what do I like? Like, what do I want from this experience? And it's just, like, it's a growth, you know, like, it happens, like, as you get older. I think sometimes, like, I don't know if that's changing, like, with the youngins now, but I definitely felt like when I was younger, I was just like, this is what people are doing, so I'm doing it. And I'm just like, oh my God, sorry.
That's okay. She just wants a little love.
She does. Too much. This is what happens when we sit on the floor. It's like an invitation for them to come in. But yeah, and also, like, your boundaries can change, as can the other person's boundaries change. And so that's why I think it goes hand in hand with, like, the communicating your needs. Because if it changes, like, you need to let the other person know. As well as, like, write it down. Because if they change, then you'll have, like, a physical thing. It's, like, a really good, like, inward look on yourself.
No, that's a good point, too. Is, like, people change. Like, things that I maybe would or wouldn't have done 6 years ago are very different now.
Yes, yeah.
Or, like, how I approach things and, like, yeah.
Exactly.
People change.
100%.
That's okay.
Yeah, so let's
dive in.
Well, we found a few, I found, like, a few blogs and articles, and I think Erica found a few blogs and articles of just, like, obviously everybody's, like, sexual experience and preference and what they like and don't like is going to be very, very different. But obviously this is the Polite as Fuck podcast, so we're talking about Erica and Ellie. So I just took, like, a few, like, phrases. You took a few, like, questions and phrases, and then we just kind of wanted to talk about, like, our preferences if we liked it or not, because I thought that would be fun.
Yeah, let's do it.
You start.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, let's just dive right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
How do you feel, or do you like when someone, like, bites your lip or, like, bites your ear? Like, how do you feel about biting?
Love it. Definitely, like, I think of everything as, like, when I was reading these and when you're sharing yours, like, I think everything, like, is on a spectrum to, like, absolutely 0 to, like, 100%, and how, like, nothing is, like, yes or no. And I think a lot of people can, don't know why I need to hold my pencil. I think people can relate to that because some people may like it, like, a little or like it a lot. And I think I'm definitely more on, like, the all the time. Not, like, all that, like, I don't need you to bite my lip off, but, like, I do enjoy that. What about you?
I think I like more of, like, a nibble.
A nibble? I just am thinking of your cheese curds.
I literally finished a whole bag of Cheetos before this episode.
I had dreams about dot pretzels, so.
They're so good. Okay.
Nibbling.
Not biting, I think, is mine. So maybe I'm more on, like, the low. I love, like a when you're making out and, like, a little, like, something.
Like, they pull it out, like, a little bit.
Yeah. But I've had horrible, like, where I thought they actually bit my ear off of my head. And I was like, so much pain. Like, literally, like, is it bleeding?
Oh my God.
Or, like, on the lip, like, swollen lip.
Oh.
And it's just, like, that is too much. So I think because of those experiences,
100%.
I'm like, more of, like, a nibble is
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But it's nice. It's, like, a little, like, aggression that's not too much for me.
Yes. Yeah. I'm, like, a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask more questions that go on.
Okay. Well, on mine, so like you have good questions, but on mine, one of the things that so this was like from a Women's Health article, but they had listed like 22 and I only picked a few on them, but they were like very like statements. So one of the people that had submitted was saying like good sex to them was not having any energy after. And I wanted to know like your thoughts on like the energy level.
Yeah. Okay. A few things. I love like when you're about to go to bed and you have sex and then you just like pass out. Like literally you're just like laying on top of each other and you just pass out. That is like the best. That's the most satisfying feeling. But I also feel like I love morning sex because it like
wakes you
up in a way. So I do think it kind of depends on the time of day.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of times in the morning where it's like you like wake up and then you want to just lay in bed for a little bit longer because of what you just did.
Yeah.
But usually it's a different like type of sex that you're having.
Yeah. I think so. Like I think that too is this doesn't necessarily mean like if I have energy after, I don't think it's bad sex.
Yeah.
So I would have to like, not that this is like an agree or disagree, but I don't think it's a determining factor to good sex. Because I think like you can have different types. So I've had like sex that lasts like forever. You're so drained afterwards and so tired, and it's been like,
it's like, please just make it end.
Make it end. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So I went down a Reddit rabbit hole.
Oh yes.
like pretty like dominant relationship things that people like.
Okay.
And have you ever heard of edging?
Yes. I think.
I just learned this word.
Is it like when you're like about to come but you don't?
Yeah, and you like a guy will be like almost there and then he'll like stop to like make it like last longer and then like slow down, like speed up, slow down, like all to make it last for a long time, which is kind of what I feel like you were talking about when you're like it goes on for a while.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? What do you think about that?
Good and bad. I don't think it's a determining factor of having good sex, but I also think like it could be fun because I think sometimes like when you're jumping right into having sex or like, you know, especially if you've had like a really long like foreplay and like you just want to like that, you're just feeling so good and they want to finish and you want to finish, like that's good, but also like pausing and like making it last longer, making it more enjoyable, especially if like you're trying to like orgasm at the same time, so that could be fun. Plus it's like a little game is kind of how I am like envisioning it, which is always like fun. I like games. So I would like, I don't know, I think that would be like an interesting thing to try. I'm thinking like with my personal experiences, like I guess I've kind of done this before where like a guy is about to, or if I'm about to or whatever, and you're just like, okay, hold on, like take it a little slower. So I guess like if that's what it is, I've done it before, but not to the like multiple times where it like needs like to last like forever.
Yeah.
But it would be like interesting to try.
I think
Reverse.
guys have done it to me based on the way that like you described it and
like
I read it, like where they're
you or
no
stopping
where
them?
they're like about to and then they stop, and I feel like for me I kind of I hate this like get off, like I get like more turned on when other people are turned on.
Yeah.
And so if they're like almost there, I'm like, yay, like this is great. And then they stop and I'm like, why? Like, and then I feel like it never gets to that point again.
Yeah.
Because they stopped it and then they're like in their head of like trying to like control something, and I'm like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
So I think no.
No. Yeah, I see that.
If that's the way, like, I'd rather like it last shorter and maybe we go again later than like try and prolong it for so long and we never fully get to like this really like climax moment because they're trying to make it last.
It seems almost like dulled when you actually do like finish. It's just very like not like the grand theatrical ending. Not that everything needs like theatrical ending, but that's a very good point. Yeah. It's interesting. Wow, God, I can only imagine what Reddit said about it.
Yeah. They went into this whole thing on like, oh, well, my ENFT boyfriend, like talking about personality traits. And then someone was like, my personality type is this and I'm asexual and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay.
Wow. Okay. Great. My second one or whatever we're on, is being like direct and voicing like from the beginning to the end exactly what you want the whole time. Thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts. I don't like to be direct. Not that I don't like it. I just feel like I have so many decisions that I have to make in a day, and my job itself is like I have to have an opinion on things that there's not a black and white answer to. And I have to be able to like hold my ground on like why it should be this way and this is what makes sense. And like I feel like I'm like when it gets to the bedroom, I just want someone to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Like I like that. I like receiving it. But when a guy is like, tell me what you want, tell me what to do, tell me, and I'm just like,
I'm almost overwhelmed.
Yeah. Then I get in my head.
No, maybe this, but then stop.
I'm like, do something, and I'll tell you if I like it.
Yes, yes, I definitely agree with that. 100%.
Are you the same?
Yeah, I think like I like being told what to do or like read, not even necessarily like someone telling me like do this or do that. I think that maybe a little bit too aggressive, but like the like slight like. I may be doing something with my hand and they want me to do something different, so they take their hand and they move it or whatever. Like I like that because I think I'm similar to you and like I like knowing that the other person is enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
However, like I also like as I get older I've like shifted my view is like not everything is about you. Like I am in this too. This is you are 100% there and I'm 100% there. So like I want my needs met. So I feel like I can be direct if I'm in a situation where I'm like, this is not, wrong situation, like wrong thing. I don't want that. But I also think like I try to use my like body language or like my hands or something to like move them and shift them. And I'm hoping that the person that I'm with is like receptive of that. So I don't actually have to be like, stop doing that and do this. Because that is like a little more difficult for me to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just like kind of a fine line, but like I don't think I'm very like in any aspect like do this, don't do this kind of person. Yeah. But I also like don't necessarily want someone to be like, I don't know, could go like back and forth, but like when somebody is constantly saying like do this, don't do this, I'm kind of like, okay, you fucking do it yourself.
Yeah, no, I agree. It can't be all the time. And I would say I do similar things where it's like more subtle, like hints, not necessarily like don't or do. Yeah. And like when someone tells me like exactly what they want, great, but don't like keep doing that the whole time. If that makes sense. Yeah. Because then it's just like like you're saying, then I'm just doing whatever feels good to them, and maybe I'm enjoying what we're doing at the moment, and then we have to keep switching or whatever. Like that's just too much for me.
Exactly. Plus, I think like sex is like a wave. Like some things are good and some things aren't good. It does not necessarily means it's bad, but you don't necessarily need to like. It's not a movie. Like it's not like picture perfect 100% of all the time. Like you're gonna have to find like a groove, and some things are gonna feel really good to me, but not so like not the same greatness to them, and vice versa. So it's just like trying to figure that out the whole time. But I think the whole like actual directness I'm not necessarily a fan of.
you were saying something about the movies. Oh, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning about like being comfortable. And I feel like if you can like laugh while you're having sex, like obviously you're not laughing at a person, but like, oh my gosh, like one time I literally rolled off the back of the bed because I was like trying to like take, I don't even remember what was happening. I feel like I was like trying to take off my pants or something, and I like leaned back and I didn't realize where I was on the bed, and I just flipped over the back. And like something like that, like that laugh.
Yeah.
If that's like so awkward and embarrassing and you're like, then you're not comfortable.
Yeah, then you shouldn't. Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing that. All right. Quickies in public. Well, actually, let's just talk about quickies and then
Like
in public.
Okay. Yes and yes.
Like strong yes.
I think like I think I'm more like a fan of quickies because I just like have like like it's just a nice like reminder that there are other things in my life. Okay, wait, how do I articulate this? Because that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Makes sense to me.
I think like I just I have a lot going on in my brain all the time, and so I think like especially when I am with like in a committed relationship or in a relationship where I am like comfortable with someone, it is nice just to have that like very intimate quick moment, and that like it takes the pressure away. It's not like this like the candles need to be lit and there's music in the background and yada yada. Sometimes it's just like that release and that pleasure and like feeling good and having that connection with that person, but then also still like going back to like the life things that need to be done. So I would say like a strong yes on that one, because I don't think like the length of sex matters like makes good sex. So I would say yes on that one. Public, I mean obviously not like too public. I'm not like that.
What
like
is
that.
too public to you?
Like literally like in the middle of a park where like people can see.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I feel like in San Francisco you can
Really?
Yeah, for sure. However, I definitely like the sneaky public, people are around, love it. I'm like almost always love it. That is definitely like one of my like go-to fantasies. If I think about like what I like is like, oh, there's people around. I do like think though like it is like hard to find like a space where like you're both comfortable.
Yeah.
I've yet to find a guy that is also super comfortable with that. I think a lot of the people that I've been in a like relationship with or like long enough to be like, what's the word, like comfortable with, have not really been very comfortable with that. And so that like obviously don't want to make anyone do something that they're not like comfortable with, but I love it.
Do you want to share an example of a location that is like that what you would say is not too public? Like I'm trying to think of like where your line is.
I'm trying to think like it didn't happen, but it would have been like perfect. Is I was in London and I got we're like super drunk. They have this like beer that's infused with tequila, and it is like
sounds like it'll mess you up.
Well, it did. No. And just like it was like really dark and kind of cold and like no one was on the street. And so like I had like taken off my bra. And like I feel like if there was like an alleyway or something where like people aren't gonna be there.
Yeah.
Like something like that, I think.
Okay.
But like I don't know, for example, like I think like the go-to like that I see in movies or where people are like, oh, there's a bathroom. I don't know if I want to do that.
I don't even
just
really.
it's like gross.
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday. Like, I don't even really like going to the bathroom in a public bathroom.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, can I hold it until I get to my house?
Yeah.
Because it can just be so grimy in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, remember when was that? When you were talking about how you like had sex on a trail or something like that? Like something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's just like
yeah.
in public, like people aren't watching me, but it's that like, oh, like gotta be quick about it, like sneaky kind of thing. Like, oh, I love it. Definitely on the far scale love of that one.
I also like quickies. I think they're fun. I like them when it's like you have somewhere to be or something and you're just like trying to like fit it in really quick before you go somewhere. Like, I think that's fun. For me, the in public piece, the idea of it sounds fun, but I think I get so in my head to where I like don't or wouldn't enjoy it because I'm like so paranoid about like, is someone going to see? Like, is like, what are we doing? This is weird. Like, I think that I just get like that and like very like, I guess when where there's a concentrated amount of people, if it's like in nature or something, like outside, I feel like
we're
the
free.
wildlings in Game of Thrones. Like when they were in the cave.
Love it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like I love that.
Yeah.
I love like you're just like in the dirt. Like, yes, that's great.
The dirt. Yes.
But like in I don't know, in a bathroom, in a setting where it's like there's a lot of people, it's like more like buildings. Does that make sense? Like that to me, I'm like, I think I get so paranoid about it.
That's true. I also think of like such a Debbie Downer on things though, but I'm like, I work with kids and if I get like pulled over for this, like my life, my career is like down the drain. Like I cannot be caught.
Oh, like in the car?
Yeah. Or like, car sex love.
Okay.
But like, if like it, I love public. That's what makes it like the danger of it. But like it can be like a fine line between being comfortable and having fun or being like uncomfortable because you're nervous about all of these things.
Yeah.
So like if the line like, and also kind of just depends on like where I'm at. Sometimes I'm like, no, this is like and then I feel like if I'm not in the mindset, you're more like, what's the word, like you will be caught because you're, you know what I mean? But I feel like if I'm in the mindset, like fuck it, I love it, let's do it.
Fun. Okay, your turn.
Is it?
I think so.
Using toys / lube. So I like, how did I say / it's so funny. So divide it up just like yours, like using toys and then talking about using lube.
I've never used toys. I don't own one. I've never been with someone who has it. I'm not opposed to it. I kind of like, I mean, because I have nothing to compare it to, I kind of like the thought of like challenging that person to actually like really try, you know? I don't know. In my mind, I feel like if it was like you have a vibrator, then it's like, then they don't really try as much.
Yeah.
I would flip that on you to ask if that's true, but assuming you have. And then with lube, this is like maybe TMI, but I've only used it for anal because it's like, wow, that is a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like, again, if you're really warmed up, if that person, if you have a good connection, if you feel comfortable, like everyone's body type is different, but for me, I don't need it because it's like I feel safe and it's fine.
Yeah. I've never used, no, that's a lie. In college, I did like use a toy with a partner, which can be fun. I don't think it's like necessarily makes good sex. It's just like a fun little thing that can be in. I think now like it would be fun to do it again. I would never do it with someone that I wasn't comfortable with. But I think like, yeah, I don't think it's a determining factor. And also like I kind of like it to be a little bit separated, whereas like I have one that I use like for me, and that's like my time, but like I don't know how like much I would want to like bring that in to like when I'm with someone because I feel like they're very separate.
Yeah.
And using lube, dude, everybody should use lube. I don't care if like you are able to like get super super wet down there or not. I think it's like makes things so much better. I think everybody should.
What about spit?
Spit, yeah, same sort of thing. Like I think I use spit more.
Yeah.
I think I've only used like again, like there's just such a, I feel very, I say that, but like, God, I'm such a hypocrite because like, it is very awkward for me to like, for example, like the last guy that I was with and like we we're kind of like in a, I don't even know what was going on, but like I would bring it with me to his house and like never use it because I just felt so like awkward. I don't know why. I don't know. Like, that's just my thing. I don't think anybody would say anything. I don't know why I feel so awkward. But I think like in my mind, it's like the times that I've had, even if I'm like well lubricated by myself, it just like adds more to it. That's all I have to say about that.
I get that. Yeah. I feel like if we're counting spit, sometimes I'm like, stop spitting.
Yeah.
Like, this is too much spit.
Yeah.
It's kind of gross.
Yeah. Sometimes you just like not have to think about it.
Yeah.
The things that you do. It's just funny. It's really funny. I don't really have anything else to say about that.
This is just such a side tangent, but I've seen these videos. It's kind of sad of like when someone's literally like licked every part of your body and like has seen like crazy, like you do crazy things and then you like walk past them in the street and like don't even acknowledge each other type of thing.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of crazy to me that
it's life.
Is life.
Yeah.
Wild.
Very.
Okay, we already kind of talked about being told what to do, so I'm going to skip that. When a guy makes sounds.
Love it.
Like,
I think
like screaming, like moaning. Define your sounds.
If someone were to scream, I'd probably like slap them. What in the hell are you doing? Screaming? No. I think like when a guy is able to like express themselves using their like voice and noise, it shows me that they're being like vulnerable and it's fucking hot.
Yeah.
Screaming. I can't get it out of my, I've never had someone scream at me. I'm not a screamer either. But I think like, yeah, I don't really know. Like just like that like animalistic aspect is so hot. And I think sometimes, and this may have been like when I was younger, like I felt like guys never did. I don't know if they were like didn't want to or didn't know. I think like I've seen a lot of like comedy skits of the difference between like a woman orgasming and like a guy orgasming and how like the woman is so like gracious and beautiful and like and then the guy's like, it's like it's really funny, but also like who gives a fuck? Like it's hot. It's hot. I like it. I think like, and I think this goes for both like men and women. I think it's very clear when like when you're faking it. And so I don't like that, but like any natural. So if like you're not a typical person that does that and then you start to, because it's like coming natural to you, love it, but also don't force it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I have to remind myself too that like, I don't need to be like making like, you know, I feel like that was like younger is like, you have to make noise. Whereas like now it's just like, whatever is happening is what's happening, and I think that's what makes it more like enjoyable.
I'm similar to you. I think I've ever been screamed at.
I just can't get it like out of my head. Like think of like a screaming goat. It's
no, that sounds like no for me. But I feel like guys usually that I've been with are like quiet. And sometimes I'm like, I would love like a little validation of like,
right? Like I know this feels good, so you better tell me it feels good. Show me.
Or it's like so soft or quiet that I'm like, hello? Like, did you say something? So I like a little like moaning or something, like some type of sound.
Yeah.
I agree. It's hot.
Love it. My next one is dirty talk. That's like all I had. Just wrote down dirty talk.
I don't hate it. Sometimes I think maybe because it's like, this is my experience. The people that I've been with, like, they're not that way normally. And so then when they do it or try to in the bedroom, I'm like, this is like weird. Yeah. Like, this doesn't seem like you.
Yeah.
Like, if someone is naturally a very flirty person, very much like sends dirty texts, that type of thing, then it's not weird to me. But if you don't usually talk that way, or like you never do that outside of the bedroom, then I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, if that's weird
Yeah.
to me. It just feels like more of like they're trying to be something or someone that they're not. For myself, I'm not that type of person. So I can't, like, when a guy has like asked me to like say things, I'm like, I don't know what you want me to say. I can't do it. I don't know. Because it's just not me. Like, I feel like I can be flirty. I can be like freaky. I don't know, but I'm not like a talk. Yeah, I'm gonna say all these things to you type of thing, or at least not to like maybe what you would call dirty.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything. I think like when you've had sex with a person like a few times and they kind of know your preference and you start to know their preference, and so when you start like having sex with them and they start like saying the things that you normally do, or like do this, or I like it when you do this, because it's what's been happening in the past. Like I like that because it's like, oh wow, you've noticed and this is what you like and you're telling me. So like I like that, but I like it like staggered. Like I don't need you saying it the whole time, but like out of nowhere and you say one thing, I'm like, oh shit, okay. And like that same goes for me, is like I feel like sometimes it'll like come to me in the moment. I think like the actual like dirty talk where I the thing that comes to my mind is like when someone is like degrading or like saying like nasty things. I don't like it. Like I'm not that kind of person. Like we can be, like you were saying, like freaky, but we don't need to talk about it, and I also don't want to be like degraded. So I think like the over like talking and sometimes like the overdoing it, especially if it doesn't come natural, it's just like same with like the moaning. I'm just like, it's not. Stop.
It seems to me more like porn-y.
Yes.
And I'm like, we're not in a porn movie.
We're like, this
whatever
is
they
real
call
life.
it, a porn scene.
Yeah. Porno.
A porno. We're not in a porno.
Yeah. And like that's not even like real fucking. I hate.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But I think it just doesn't feel natural. And sometimes like what I love about like sex and having sex with people is like it's just so like intimate, and it feels like I was saying like very like animalistic, and like we don't need to talk. Like this is the time where like
let our bodies talk.
Exactly. Like I talk so much. Like I am such a talker, and I feel like in the bedroom, that is the time for me to like shut the fuck up and like and I think like that's kind of what I'm like receptive to when someone else is like that. Like if you are like like I said, if it naturally comes up like once or twice, it's like it can be hot, but I'm like, oh, I don't need you to do that like, all the time.
Yeah. No, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're not in the mood, do you want someone to like woo you?
Yeah. I think it is all about like how you go about it, but I think sometimes like I'm just thinking of like past like relationships is like there's a lot of factors that play in like to not being in the mood, and like I've even talked with some people that are like literally not in the mood because of the medication that they're taking. So I think sometimes like it is nice to be like like wooed into it. Again, like this is saying like consensual, you're in a relationship, you're safe, yada yada. I hope that's like kind of self-explanatory, but I don't mind it. I think sometimes like that's been one of the best like sexual experiences I've had, is sometimes like it's not like on my mind, I'm not thinking about it, it's not necessarily like I'm horny right now, I need to have sex, but I see that they are, and so they're trying to like woo me. I'm like, well, you're gonna have to like, they work for it, and it makes it fun. So I would say like yes. Plus it like pulls you out, because most of the time like if I'm not in the mood, it's because like I'm in my head, like life is getting to me, things are happening, and I think like that is like such a, like I was saying before about like the quickies, is it like pulls you out and like realizes like life is so much bigger than what you're going through right now. And so yeah, I think I'm like on a far scale of sure, like try to
give us your best bet. I would say similar. I think I'm like 80-20. I do think, similar to you, a lot of the times when I haven't been in the mood and they are is when I'm in my head, or like because excuse me, because most relationships that I've like been in, both relationships that I have been in have been long distance. Sometimes honestly I will be like, from all the traveling or even just like driving, like I get there and like as much as I'm excited to see them, there are times when I'm just like, ugh, like I'm just like so frustrated that I had to travel this far to see you. So then I'm like kind of grumpy.
It almost helps.
But yeah, then it helps if they're like patient and talk me out of it, and like not like, hey, I'm not in the mood, and then they're like trying to make out, but like being sweet and slowly,
like hand placements,
yeah,
and things like that, or like, here's a glass of wine. I'm like, if you hand me a glass of wine and put your hand on my thigh, okay, we'll see what happens. I love it. My next one was experimenting. Just experimenting in the bedroom. What are your thoughts?
Yes, if I know them, if we're like very like comfortable, which I feel like you're only that way if you've basically done all the things that like you've done before type of thing, or like what you know that you like and you feel like you know what they like, and then it's like you feel so safe or you've communicated already that you can try other things. Like there's like, what is it, Karma Sutra or whatever, like all the crazy moves in those books, and like they have like, I've seen one, I think it was in Powell's, that's like 365 different sex things to try, and it's like, wow, that's a lot. Like one for every day, and I'm like, first of all, who's having sex every day? But cool for you.
Yeah, great.
I'm comfortable with it. I also feel like though some of those things, it's just like, for me, if I'm in like a crazy position, then I'm not comfortable. I'm like, yeah, we can do this for like 30 seconds, but like my thigh's cramping or something. Like it's not really enjoyable for me. Yeah. Depending on what it is.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think my first, when I wrote this down, was no, but I think that's because it's been like a really long time since I've been like comfortable with a person to do that. And like, honestly, I don't really think I've ever have. I think my relationships when I was younger don't count. And I think like in college, like the person that I was with and I were very like open and talking about it, and that was probably the most experimenting that I've done, which was great. I also like, I wouldn't be opposed, but like you said, like it would need to be someone that I'm like comfortable with, and like of course, like I would love to, because then it's like fun, and it's like I said, like I like games, and it's almost like a game, and it works out, and if it doesn't, then we just go back to what we know, but like we're trying things. So in that aspect, yes, but it would need to be with someone that I've like been with for a minute and feel very comfortable and committed to. I like I said, like I don't think it necessarily like defines great sex.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Do you want me to say my last one?
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay. And I think this is just like, I already know what you're gonna say because I know women. The best sex starts way before the physical act.
Oh, yeah, it does.
100%.
That was a good leading question.
Like, I don't really know that there's much else to, like, say on that, except for, like, it really does.
I think that's a good way to, like, circle back to the beginning of, like, building that communication, having that connection, knowing a person, understanding, like, being able to tell where they're at mentally. Like, that's so important for having good intimacy, is like, if you're just so oblivious to someone like struggling literally, and then they're like, maybe, because I know I've done this, like trying to get in the mood for you, but they're not there. Like, you need to be able to also read that with them. And I think foreplay is so important. Like, once you do get into the bedroom, like warming up someone. Some of the worst sex I've had is when they're just like, here we go, and you're like, wow, okay, finished because I'm done already, type of thing. So a lot of communication And it's okay to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you are with that person for a long time. Like, you don't have to have sex.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like, the best sex I've ever had, I think, was, like, hardly penetrative sex. Like, hardly. It was mostly foreplay. And I think, like, intimacy with someone is, like, such a broad thing. And I think, like, just, like, the act of, like, what people define as, like, sex is, like, so, like, basic. So it does start, like, way beforehand. And I think, like, to your point of, like, yeah, it's important to, like, when you are, like, starting and, like, reading that person and, you know, physically touching them and reading them and figuring out, like, you know, at the beginning part of sex, it's such an opportunity to see, like, where they're at and how, like, what their needs are, what your needs are. So I think it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, love it.
Love it. I'm not going to look at you when I say love sex. Like,
Love sex.
Love sex. Sex is great. Intimacy is wonderful.
Yeah.
When you know what you want and when you communicate and when you're intimate and all these things and when you're in a good headspace. Like, I know people have had, myself as well, like, horrendous experiences that they're like, I don't ever want to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and if you've never had sex and doesn't matter how old you are, that's also fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think really the key is knowing yourself before you can, like, really get to know and share that with someone else.
Share the aspect of yourself with another human being is a huge thing and shouldn't be, like overlooked. And you can only really do that if you are listening to yourself and listening to your body and where your, like, headspace is. Because even if you've had sex for a really long time, you may be in a headspace where you're just like, don't need it right now, and that's okay. So I like that. It's okay to say no.
It's okay to say no. But if you say yes, have a great time.
Yeah, get out there. Go have fun, consensual, sexy sex, guys.
And we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.